Welcome, this is Teachers Talk Radio and I am Aramide Oluwa. Today is the 9th of March 2025 and I'll be joined by two important guests. They've both been on the show before and we'll be discussing a very interesting topic which centers on the benefits and drawbacks of the use of cell phones in our secondary school, most especially in Nigeria. Their names are Godwin Omo and Mrs. Peace Nkire. Yes, this is Teachers Talk Radio. Welcome once again. Soon enough, I'll be calling on Godwin, who is in already, and then awaiting Peace Nkire to join us on the show. And then we'll get it started. For the meantime, let's listen to the news. We'll be right back.
This show is brought to you in partnership with John Catt Educational, publishers of professional development books and resources that support great teaching and learning in schools around the world. Don't miss out. Level up your professional development today and visit johncattbookshop.com to explore the full range of titles. Use the code JCTTR2425 for 20% off your order. Happy reading.
In this week's education news, The Guardian, The Standard, and several other newspapers report that the Education Secretary, Bridget Phillipson, pledges to tackle chronic skills shortages by abolishing the Institute for Apprenticeships and Technical Education and replacing it with a new body called Skills England. The bill, which will transfer the functions of the Apprenticeships and Technical Education Institute, reached its second reading in the House of Commons and was passed by 317 votes 55. In support of the bill, Phillipson said, "The skills gaps that we face in our country deny people the opportunity, the power and the freedom to choose the life that they want to live." Critics of the bill argue that the new body, Skills England, will not be truly independent and will not have the respect of the profession. Phillipson responded by saying this approach was necessary because of the urgency of the skills shortage. Periodical Schools Week carries the story of ex-schools inspectors who have launched the Alternative Big Consultation on Ofsted report cards. Former senior officials behind the Alternative Big Listen last year fear that current proposals to change the inspection system are being presented as take it or leave it. Frank Norris and Colin Richards have therefore created the Alternative Big Consultation to independently gather opinions on plans for new report cards. The survey, which launched this week and closes on April the 4th, will run alongside Ofsted's own official 12-week consultation, which closes on April the 28th. The Alternative Big Consultation comprises the same questions as the government's own consultation on the plans, but also asks respondents if they believe the proposals are fit for purpose. Many teachers and school leaders have expressed their view on the proposed report card model that it's hardly an improvement and contains many of the weaknesses of the previous system. Also in the news this week, the Daily Express covered a story with the title, "Save Our School Playtime." It went on to explain that experts warn of dire consequences as the break times in schools are cut. A report by the Raising the Nation Play Commission found outdoor playtime at school is being squeezed out of children's lives and must be restored. The Guardian carried a story under the headline, "Ministers urged to add audio books to England's new schools curriculum." A poll by the National Literacy Trust found that children's enjoyment of listening to audio and podcasts had risen compared to the previous year, overtaking their enjoyment of reading for the first time since the charity began asking about audio in 2020. The charity said it was therefore advocating for increased access to and a broadening of the variety of reading formats available to pupils, to include audio. Jonathan Douglas of the NLT stated, "In recent years, we've seen a steady rise in children's enjoyment of listening to audio and uncovered the myriad benefits it can bring, from sparking a love of reading to deepening learning and boosting well-being. PES magazine reported this week that primary school PE training was woefully inadequate. As reported to MPs, the chief executive of Youth Sport Trust called for PE to become a core subject to drive up standards and improve fitness. Giving evidence to the Commons Culture, Media and Sport Committee, Ali Oliver called for PE to become a core curriculum subject with much higher status, and she told the committee that training problems were exacerbating the situation where there were 41,000 fewer hours in 2020-23 compared to 2011 and 12. Less than half of children are getting what the chief medical officer recommends as the minimum amount of activity. More worryingly, we know that 30% of children get less than 30 active minutes a day. LBC News reported that a teacher was sacked after a joke about whacking a pupil over the head was misunderstood. Lakshmi Subrian, who had taught for over 35 years, was sacked after a school child who spoke English as a second language misunderstood the comment. The teacher was dismissed from Gilbert Colvin Primary School in Ilford, East London in 2023 following the incident. Miss Subrian took the school to an employment tribunal, claiming the remark had been made in jest while teaching Year 6 pupils and preparing them for their maths SAT exam. Speaking at the disciplinary hearing in July 2023, she said the child's decision to continue attending her after-school club showed they had not been that upset. However, she lost the appeal. Teachers' unions supporting Miss Subrian argue that this case adds to the vulnerability many teachers feel when a single ill-judged remark could end a career. And finally, a piece of research by the British Educational Research Association. Like many pieces of research, it shows something we might have always suspected was true. In their paper, A Century of Educating Britain's Political Elite, Privilege Masquerading as Meritocracy, they show how Oxbridge and private schools, called in Britain public schools, dominate the selection of cabinet ministers and prime ministers. Oxbridge educated 14 of 21 prime ministers between 1922 and 2022. Unsurprisingly, they conclude that the concentration of elite formation systems raises concerns that their graduates will suffer from groupthink. Analysing a series of important decisions made across the 20th century, it seems certain attitudes, such as the necessity to accept neoliberalist economics, the importance of Britain as a world power, and above all, the acceptance of class privilege itself, go unchallenged. Well, there's a surprise. This has been your Teachers Talk Radio News, brought to you by John Gibbs.
All right. Thank you for staying with us. Thank you for joining. Thank you for tuning in so we can talk it out on Teachers Talk Radio. So yes, joining me today, like I said earlier, I have Peace Nkere and then I have Godwin Omo. They are about like the one of the favorite guests I've ever had on the show, and it's always a nice time, having them around. Peace Nkere is currently one of the student coordinator at Nigeria Computer Society, the Lagos chapter. So she's someone that is into tech, and then she's very very vast when it comes to talking about things that has to do with technology and all that. And then Godwin Omo himself is an educator. He's someone that is also tech savvy, that loves anything tech, anything education and all that. So today we'll be talking about the use of cell phones in our secondary schools, most especially in Nigeria. The use of cell phones in our secondary schools. We want to talk about the benefits of allowing secondary school students to have phones in school, and then the drawbacks. That means the advantages and the disadvantages. So welcome to the show. I can see some people. I have Ari. Edogun Ari one from Badagry, Lagos, Nigeria. Thank you for joining. I can see Olaide Yusuf Pusari from Okwafo Badagry. Thank you for joining. And I can see Adesunyo Lydia. I can see Adenira Ojo and a couple of others. Thank you very much for joining on the show. So, Mrs. Peace, if you can hear me, good evening to you.
Good
Oh, Godwin
evening.
Omo. Yes. Good
Miss
evening,
Sarah, good
Mrs. Peace.
evening.
Welcome
Thank
to the
you.
show. Thank you for joining us today.
Thank you. Nice having you all.
Yes. So yes, let's get right into it. Peace. Recently I saw on the news that one of the top leading countries, banned the use of cell phones in secondary schools. So I want us to first of all get it straight. Majority of the millennials growing up, there wasn't really the opportunity, or phones were not really um used like that in those days. So, and then we survived. We went to school, we came out with good grades, many of us did very well. And but now we can see that technology is fast going down to the next generation. And we can see secondary school students right from year 7 or grade 7, saying that they need to use a cell phone before they can, get things done, get the assignments done and all that. So I want us to start with, is cell phone that important for for students in secondary school? I want us to start with that.
What I have to say about it is that it has its own pros and cons. Having a
Right,
cell phone is not totally bad, but we have more advantages. But from the look of things, what is going on in our society now, I think the disadvantages is now outweighing the advantages. So
right,
this is where we need to, tighten our belts and make sure that things are done in the proper way. Let me just come up with a case study. In 2009, Sweden chose to replace books with computers. That's Sweden, that's in 2009. Then
right,
15 years later, it allocates 104 million euros to reverse this course. So that means there's a problem somewhere. There's a limitation somewhere that even the use of all these gadgets couldn't meet up with the academic standard in Sweden. So now, as we speak, Sweden has reversed back to the traditional method of learning. So we have a lot of instances like this. Okay, now Sweden is investing 104 euros. 104 euros, that's 104 million euros to bring back printed textbooks. You understand? Printed textbooks, it has already discarded. The academia has discarded these textbooks. Why? Why do you think this is happening? Now, it's bringing back printed textbook, highlighting growing concerns over digital learning, over the digital learning tools on the students. The students focus on their skills. So that means the toll in this country has outweighed the advantage of bringing in this gadget in the first place. So this is where we have to sit back and go back to our drawing board and see where we can make things right.
right. Thank you, Mrs. Peace. I can see that Godwin is also on now. Godwin is connected, and then there's a comment here. Okay, someone is saying good evening. Then Oyase Ose is saying cell phone exposes children to the social world, which hinders education. Right, right. So Godwin, if you can hear me, good evening to you. Welcome to the show.
Yeah, good evening, Nana. Good evening, everyone. Can you guys hear me? Good evening.
Yes, yes, we can. Nice to have you here.
Uh, yeah,
Yes.
thank you so
So,
much. I
yes, so
It's a
we just
pleasure.
had Mrs. P say something about the use of phones and what happened in Sweden and all that. What do you think is happening in Nigeria currently? Because when I was checking this up on the internet when I was preparing, I saw that it stated that Nigeria doesn't really have a policy, written out. It was just said that phones will be banned, but there was no written policy to that effect. So, what do you think what do you think is going on in Nigeria? As regards to the use of cell phones in secondary schools.
First off, I will like to, in Nigeria, what usually happens is we are not proactive. We will take measures after we've been hit and we've been hit hard, then we'll now take precautionary measures. So to start with, the system in our educational system, first off, we take cue from other countries, forgetting the fact that we are a peculiar people. Okay, as a country, we are quite peculiar. And they consider what is happening in the outside world, now the Western world to be precise. So they look at its advantages. They won't go down way to the disadvantages. All right. So they will look at the advantage and say, oh, it is working in that space. Probably it should work in Nigeria. So for me, what I would like to say first, I would like to discuss access before bringing it down to the school. So at what point do you think students in secondary school should have access to PDAs? All right, portable devices, PDAs, phones, laptop. Once they have access, forget it. They are going to have that opportunity to get out of the class. Now, this is what it does. As a teacher, you're supposed to control your class. There's what we call control mechanism. When you are teaching, there's what class control. But when a child comes in with a phone, what it does is that it's bringing another class into your class, and you cannot control that class.
Right, right.
Yeah. So this day education, we are not just looking at classroom, the blocks. We have also the consciousness class. Is the person I'm teaching, is it there with me? So you have to consider that, because we've not gone deep into the talk. I would like to give you another point. Nigeria as a country, we will not take any measures. So we copy from the world. If it's happening in the world and they are seeing the positives, we'll take the positive. And they will neglect, they will not even go deeper. So I will stop at this point. Then we'll talk about this control and access later.
All right, thank you so much, Godwin, for that wonderful point that you just chipped in. Yeah, like you said, Nigeria, I think we are not really proactive. We are rather reactive. We tend to react when things have happened, and we start putting measures in place. But yes, I think we have to also discuss the time, the right age, or the right class where students are meant to use phones. Because in my neighborhood, I see students in junior secondary schools saying that my teacher said I should come with phone to school so like they can copy notes. And then when I searched through this particular student's phone, I saw that this student had downloaded Telegram, downloaded apps, they can use to do all sorts. And I'm like, even the real reason you were given this phone, it's not being actualized. So yes, we have to talk about the certain age, and then the probably restrictions and all that. Okay, Oyase Ose is saying, secondly, the effect of cell phone may endanger the eyesight of students with continuous viewing. Yes, the more they keep looking at screens and all that, viewing phones, it can endanger their eyes even right from a tender age. And then Ari is saying phones should be banned in school. If at all the children are to bring phones, it is that the phone should be given to the school authority, and when they are going home, they collect it because of security challenges. Parents wanted to know where their words are. Correct, absolutely correct. In the school where I work, the secondary school students are not allowed to use phones in school. But certain days, probably when we're having social events, the senior student, that's the A level student, are allowed to come in with their phones. Not all the time though. There are times when they submit it probably at the front desk, and they pick it up when they're going, when they're leaving the school, so that their parents will be able to communicate with them and all that. Yes. So thank you very much for that wonderful point, Godwin and Mrs. Peace. So now that brings me to the next thing I want us to talk about. I checked some countries online. You know, I think is it the UK? They actually allowed the students to bring their phones to school, but they dropped the phones in a show glass or so. And then you could see the reaction of the students. There was a video that circulated around social media. You could see the faces of these children, like they were so sad, staring at the phones, but they couldn't get the phone. So now that brings me to the next question. Do we think use of phones is what makes these children connect, or do they really need it to have social interaction when there are people around them, but they prefer to have these phones with them? They prefer to communicate via the phones rather than talking. You see some students, they've not even approached each other physically before, but they do that online. They do that with their phones. So what do you think that is an advantage, to help them get over maybe social anxiety or something? Mrs. Peace, what do you think? Do you think using phones for social interaction, does it help students get over social anxiety?
Now, talking about cell phones, now we have the button phones, we have Android, we have iPhones. Now, what kind of
Yes.
phone are they allowed to come with? Now, these
Mm-hmm.
phones, they should have restriction as to how to use these phones. So this phone
Right.
shouldn't be a device that should be brought into the classroom at any time, wherever
Right.
or whenever they feel like. So any teacher, the teacher in charge or the school head, they should come up with policies that will help the school to regulate the use of this phone so that they'll be able to utilize the use. So,
Right.
and my take is that students shouldn't be allowed to handle all these phones, like the Android phones and the iPhone, till a particular stage, like their final year in the secondary school. I always advise that they should be given these gadgets because of their mobile devices, even laptop. I even prefer students go for the use of laptop because of the integration of ICT. Technology is advancing on daily basis, so these children cannot be left behind. So that can also help us to manage their screen time. The lightning from the screen has effect on their eyes. You see young children as young as the age of 6 years
Using glasses.
wearing the effects of these yes, eyeglasses. That's all these medicated glasses. As young as 6 years. During my program, I do see them. I have children. That is, I train children. So I see them, and uh, I feel so that is, I'm so compassionate seeing them, using glasses. Without the glasses, they cannot see. Why? Because of the eye strain. And we always advise they use the anti-glare whenever they are using these devices. So we as computer teachers should tell these children that they should use that's the eye care, that's the anti-glare for eye care. We should use blue cut ray glasses, eyeglasses, so that it will reduce the effect of this screen time, the effect of this lightning on the screen on the children's eyes. That's the impact on the children's eyes. And I also noticed that children are fast forgetting their household skills, their tasks on daily basis. They are becoming lazy. They don't want to go through the pains of writing on books. Sometimes they see it as stress. And now it's making them lazy. They'll just anytime they like. So we as parents, we as teachers and educators should help them. Their children, they need our help. We can't just leave them to themselves. So we need to come in here because of it's going to affect the next generation. In 5 years coming, if we just let it be, it's going to have a toll on them. It's going to take a toll on them. So we have to come in. We have to come in. Even emotional stress. Some of them are becoming emotional. I read a story about a child that killed himself because of AI. Because of AI, the boy was always on indoors, conversing with his AI. He now fell in love with his personal AI robot, and the AI robot say, can we meet? We need to see each other. The AI robot now told him, okay, you can now kill yourself so that we can see now. And this boy went ahead and killed himself. So this is the negative impact of all these gadgets on the children. So we as adults need to monitor them. They need to be monitored. So thank you. That's what I
Thank
have
you
to
very
say for
much.
now. So
Thank you
as we
very much,
proceed, I
Mrs.
have
Peace.
other inputs as we proceed.
All right, thank you very much, Mrs. Peace, for those wonderful input. I think in 2018, UNESCO called for the complete ban of smartphones. Now, smartphones. That means they can bring other phones like this old model phones, yes, but smartphones were banned. UNESCO called for the complete ban of smartphones in 2018 in schools, citing its link to reduced educational performance and negative effects on emotional stability. Just like Mrs. P said, AI, the use of AI made the student, commit suicide because of the interactions he had been having with this AI thing. So, and Ari is saying, okay, let me read the text from Olaide Yusuf Busari. He says, why should phones be allowed in school premises in the first place? Let's not forget that when these young boys and girls are given such privilege, they will surely abuse such privilege. The best that can be done to use borrow phones, probably if their parents want to track their movement to and fro the school. Okay, cell phones being brought and used in school are just distractions to them. Correct. Ari is saying what I think we school administrators should do is to digitally educate our children from kindergarten on the responsible use of phones. We can start by having it in an ICT book as nursery rhymes, which will later become a part of them. We have to catch them young. Correct, correct, correct. But allowing students to bring phone to school and saying, oh, we'll monitor how they use it, it's not going to work because I know what we deal with as administrators in schools. For example, students sneaking phones. You see them putting phones in their school bags and taking it to the restroom to use. Some sneak phones into hostels. You know, they take these phones into hostels just because they want to keep up with their social media handles. One was caught on, was it Snapchat? Yeah, I think Snapchat or either yeah, Snapchat, because she wanted to keep up with her streaks on on Snapchat. She had to sneak her phone into the hostel just to keep up with streaks on Snap to get higher streaks. So actually these things, you see such students, you see them not concentrating in school because why they are thinking of, oh, let me make content, I need to create content and all that, and this will actually lead to poor academic performance of these children. It is just distractions to them. We grew up without the use of phone, and as much as I wouldn't want to say, oh, we should not allow students use phones at all because the world is evolving, right? But I would just say it should be it should be banned in schools. It should be totally banned in schools. So let's hear what Godwin has to say about this. Godwin, in 2018, UNESCO called for the complete ban of smartphones in schools, and they linked it to reduced academic performance and negative effect on emotional stability of students. Do you agree with this, or you have a contrary opinion, Godwin?
I don't complete. I agree with UNESCO. Yes, I agree with UNESCO for that move. Then, when we say they are bringing smartphone to school, what exactly is the purpose for this smartphone? So I want us to check it. I used to be a teacher. I still teach, and I am surrounded by those that are teaching as well. All right.
Right.
So when a student brings phone to school, it is not for academic purpose. I stand to be corrected, but let's paint it together. So at what point will the students use that smartphone, and what are they using it for? Is it for assignments or to look up something that is being taught in the school that day? One. Number two, if they are bringing smartphone or whatever gadget it is they are bringing to school, it is based on personal purpose. I am in the IT space. If I have a school, or I decide to have a school and I want to allow my students bring phones into the school, all of them will have to be on my network. So meaning they are going to be on my Wi-Fi. So what I would have done is that I will narrow every search engines. You will not be able to get to TikTok. You will not get to Facebook. You will not get to all those things that distract you. Solely resources that are meant for education.
Okay,
Hello, can you hear me?
you mean like having a firewall or something?
Firewall behind, yeah, firewall is going to be behind my servers. All right, I'm going to integrate it. So look at Covenant, for example, as big as Covenant is, they still, at that age, at that point, they are still telling people not to use what? They use a smartphone. And you can see the far reaching results they've achieved. So I want to understand, why are they bringing the smartphone to school? You have laptops in the computer lab, you have e-libraries. So what is the use of the phone in the school? If we can answer this question, I think we've already gotten it. So if they are bringing phones and they are being taught in the school, and you have a resource library, maybe an e-library, where they can go and search whatever it is they want to search, there is no point bringing smartphone to school. So if you do that, what you have done is that you have successfully expand the scope of control. And let me tell you this, it is popular everywhere. When there is expansion, there's difficulty to control it. You are finding it difficult to control a pupil physically in the class, and you're also finding it difficult to control a student whose mind is wandering out of the class. He's no longer there with you. Probably is bending down, looking, waiting for break. You want to catch on what's happening outside or what they are doing on Snapchat. I want to check my friend on WhatsApp. I want to post my new on the status. He's not there. Your control mechanism needs to be top notch for you to handle both. All right. So you see institutions that says, don't blame institutions or educational platform that says, when you come in, please drop your phone, even down to the teachers. We don't want to narrow it down to students. Even teachers cannot control themselves without the phones, with the phones. So they have limitations. How much more do we want to talk about the students? It's going to cause a deviation, and they will be distracted in their. UNESCO did a lot. Even in UK, it is not allowed. In UK that we are copying, this same UK, go to Canada, they don't use their phones in class. So they put restrictions on what to do. If you come to my office, there are some, once you get into my Wi-Fi, you can't even connect. When you get connected, there are things you can't access. All right. So you put control measures. But I want to ask the schools that are actually using smartphones, is it for academic purpose? Please, I would like us to answer that. The schools that allow students to bring in smartphones to the school,
Mm-hmm.
is it for academic purpose?
All right. If you have teachers and educators here, I think they can send their comments, send their text, and I'll get to read them. If you are working in a school where students are allowed to bring cell phone to schools, tell us, what do they do with it? Is it for academic purposes or for just for parents to keep up with them, which should be, after the end of school day, right? And like we said, and Godwin, I actually liked where you almost ended your conversation. I was actually coming to that. Even with we teachers, administrators, we can get distracted with the use of phones, our cell phones. And then I read, I think, which particular country they banned school bus drivers from using phones. I think it had Australia or something. They banned drivers, the school bus drivers, from using cell phones because they discovered that even drivers get distracted. While driving, they found them texting, they found them taking calls, which can endanger lives of the school children in the buses. So yes, cell phones, even to us adults, it's like a distraction. Then come to think of children using it and then bringing it to school. That means the whole essence of them coming to school is not being it won't be really met, because they are in school to learn interaction, social interaction, and all that, to learn academic stuff. But if they're bringing it to school, which isn't for academic purpose, then they are abusing, the use of cell phones. So right now, I think we'll go on a commercial break. We'll listen to word from our sponsors, and then we'll be right back to talk about other issues, and talk about the certain age, the certain age where students should be allowed to get to use phones in school. Thank you, and I'll read the comments later.
Meet 2025 BET Award winner Kialo EDU, the 100% free tool for thoughtful, inclusive classroom discussion. On Kialo, students contribute instantly and simultaneously to create an interactive map of a discussion, deepening their subject knowledge and enhancing their critical thinking skills. Set tasks, track participation, and provide personalized feedback in just a few clicks. And since it's compatible with all your favorite LMS platforms, it slots seamlessly into your existing workflow. Over 1 million educators and students are already using Kialo to make the world a more thoughtful place. Join them today at kialo-edu.com.
This show is brought to you in partnership with John Catt Educational, publishers of professional development books and resources that support great teaching and learning in schools around the world. Don't miss out. Level up your professional development today and visit johncattbookshop.com to explore the full range of titles. Use the code JCTTR2425 for 20% off your order. Happy reading.
In this week's education news, The Guardian, The Standard, and several other newspapers report that the Education Secretary, Bridget Phillipson, pledges to tackle chronic skills shortages by abolishing the Institute for Apprenticeships and Technical Education and replacing it with a new body called Skills England. The bill, which will transfer the functions of the Apprenticeships and Technical Education Institute, reached its second reading in the House of Commons and was passed by 317 votes to 55. In support of the bill, Phillipson said, "The skills gaps that we face in our country deny people the opportunity, the power and the freedom to choose the life that they want to live." Critics of the bill argued that the new body, Skills England, will not be truly independent and will not have the respect of the profession. Phillipson responded by saying this approach was necessary because of the urgency of the skills shortage. Periodical Schools Week carries the story of ex-schools inspectors who have launched the alternative big consultation on Ofsted report cards. Former senior officials behind the alternative big listen last year fear that current proposals to change the inspection system are being presented as take it or leave it. Frank Norris and Colin Richards have therefore created the Alternative Big Consultation to independently gather opinions on plans for new report cards. The survey, which launched this week and closes on April the 4th, will run alongside Ofsted's own official 12-week consultation, which closes on April the 28th. The Alternative Big Consultation comprises the same questions as the government's own consultation on the plans, but also asks respondents if they believe the proposals are fit for purpose. Many teachers and school leaders have expressed their view on the proposed report card model that it's hardly an improvement and contains many of the weaknesses of the previous system. Also in the news this week, the Daily Express covered a story with the title, "Save Our School Playtime." It went on to explain that experts warn of dire consequences as the break times in schools are cut. A report by the Raising the Nation Play Commission found outdoor playtime at school is being squeezed out of children's lives and must be restored. The Guardian carried a story under the headline, "Ministers urged to add audio books to England's new schools curriculum." A poll by the National Literacy Trust found that children's enjoyment of listening to audio and podcasts had risen compared to the previous year, overtaking their enjoyment of reading for the first time since the charity began asking about audio in 2020. The charity said it was therefore advocating for increased access to and a broadening of the variety of reading formats available to pupils, to include audio. Jonathan Douglas of the NLT stated, "In recent years, we've seen a steady rise in children's enjoyment of listening to audio and uncovered the myriad benefits it can bring, from sparking a love of reading to deepening learning and boosting well-being." PES Magazine reported this week that primary school PE training was woefully inadequate. As reported to MPs, the chief executive of Youth Sport Trust called for PE to become a core subject to drive up standards and improve fitness. Giving evidence to the Commons Culture, Media and Sport Committee, Ali Oliver called for PE to become a core curriculum subject with much higher status, and she told the committee that training problems were exacerbating the situation where there were 41,000 fewer hours in 2020-23 compared to 2011 and 12. Less than half of children are getting what the Chief Medical Officer recommends as the minimum amount of activity. More worryingly, we know that 30% of children get less than 30 active minutes a day. LBC News reported that a teacher was sacked after a joke about whacking a pupil over the head was misunderstood. Lakshmi Subrian, who had taught for over 35 years, was sacked after a school child who spoke English as a second language misunderstood the comment. The teacher was dismissed from Gilbert Colvin Primary School in Ilford, East London in 2023 following the incident. Miss Subrian took the school to an employment tribunal, claiming the remark had been made in jest while teaching Year 6 pupils and preparing them for their maths SAT exam. Speaking at the disciplinary hearing in July 2023, she said the child's decision to continue attending her after-school club showed they had not been that upset. However, she lost the appeal. Teachers' unions supporting Miss Subrian argue that this case adds to the vulnerability many teachers feel when a single ill-judged remark could end a career. And finally, a piece of research by the British Educational Research Association. Like many pieces of research, it shows something we might have always suspected was true. In their paper, A Century of Educating Britain's Political Elite, Privilege Masquerading as Meritocracy, they show how Oxbridge and private schools, called in Britain public schools, dominate the selection of cabinet ministers and prime ministers. Oxbridge educated 14 of 21 prime ministers between 1922 and 2022. Unsurprisingly, they conclude that the concentration of elite formation systems raises concerns that their graduates will suffer from groupthink. Analysing a series of important decisions made across the 20th century, it seems certain attitudes, such as the necessity to accept neoliberalist economics, the importance of Britain as a world power, and above all, the acceptance of class privilege itself, go unchallenged. Well, there's a surprise. This has been your Teachers Talk Radio News, brought to you by John Gibbs.
Yes, yes, yes. Thank you for staying tuned. Thank you for tuning in so we can talk it out on Teachers Talk Radio. Okay, so far we've been talking about the use of cell phones in secondary schools in Nigeria, especially, and then we've been discussing the benefit and also the drawbacks. That's the advantages and disadvantages. So far, I think what we've actually been able to conclude on is that student bringing phone to school should be probably because, the only argument we've been able to say is the right thing, you know, is just for as a communication tool for parents to know their children's safety. That should be the only advantage for now. So far, that is all we have been able to gather. That, okay, students bringing phone to school should probably be because the parents want to know where they are part time, and based on some of the comments I've read, that was the same thing that some other people said. Yes. And I have another text here from Olaide Yusuf Busari. It says, okay, let me start from the one with Harry. It says the use of smartphones in my school is not allowed, and we make sure that we do occasional raid for students that want to bring in phones without prior authorization. Correct. Even in my school where I work, we just sometimes we just do um raids when they are not even expecting. We just search their bags and then we find funny things. Then Olaide Yusuf Busari says, in my school, Lasso International School, Lasso is Lagos State University International School, it is never allowed for students to bring phones to school. When such a phone is cited, it will be confiscated by the school authority. If a student must bring a phone to school, the class teacher or principal must be aware and must be submitted to the office as soon as he or she arrives at the school premises. Awesome. And then Adesunyo Lydia says, Lasso is doing great. Awesome, awesome, awesome. So yeah, so far, the only argument is probably for the safety of the student. So I want to read out something that I discovered in the UK. That in the UK, the collective use of it was discovered that the collective use of cell phones in schools poses other technological challenges, such that some schools reported that allowing all students to use cell phone at the same time slows down school bandwidth speed. That means probably the internet connection. It slows down the school bandwidth speed, and hence some schools have blocked phones from accessing the school Wi-Fi. But I don't think that's the solution actually. Them using the school Wi-Fi is probably just to download games, to play Discord, to play with so many things. I know some of us are familiar with some of these apps that these children use these days. They use Discord, they use Roblox, if I'm correct. They use so many things. So yeah. Mrs. Peace, I want to ask you a question. I can actually verify this. There's this child in my area. I found him with a phone. I think it's a junior secondary school. He specifically mentioned that his own school teacher asked him to come with a phone so that he could copy notes. That's to say that probably the teachers are not really, I don't know, they don't want to write on the board anymore or what. They asked them to bring cell phones to schools to get notes, to download notes. What do you think? What do you think about this, Mrs. Peace? Do you think it's a nice idea for students to bring phone? Would they be able to check, even if they would do random raids? I'm still sure there'll be one or two students that will be so smart enough to have places where they can keep the phones and then they go and use them at intervals. Do you agree with me, Mrs. Peace?
Yeah, yes, Mrs. Haramida, I agree with you to an extent, yes. If at all this student should come to school with phone, they should have an agreement where this phone should be kept till after school. You understand? Or the time by which then no, this is going to be a relationship between the parents and the teachers. That's the PTA has to come in now. So they have to be an agreement so that there'll be clear cut agreement between the teachers, the school heads and the parents. Because of if anything happens to this child as a result of coming to school with this phone, the school is still going to take the blame. So there should be an agreement. So, okay, if the students are going to come to school with phone, for instance, like let me just it's worthy of note that the federal government has set a 2027 target for transitioning the country's examination system fully to CBT. That's the external exam we are all aware of, NACO and WAEC. So
Okay,
if these
sorry, come
children might
again.
use this
You,
as
you
an
you're saying
excuse, they might tell their parents,
you're
the
saying the
federal
federal government
government, that's
is
Nigeria, the federal
okay,
government,
okay. They're trying to
yes, has set
transition.
2027 target. Yeah, they are transitioning from that's the normal, the traditional WAEC handwritten to CBT. CBT. So examination, that system, let's just transition it to this system fully. So these children can use this as an excuse. They can give this excuse to their parents. that they need to use the phone, they want to use it for CBT, and the parents will oblige them. You understand? So now this is where the school has to come in and come up with a policy that we need to have meetings from time to time. This is what is going to happen in 2027, where they're going to be writing WAEC and NACO based on CBT. So now we as ICT teachers, we need to enlighten the parents. We need to enlighten the parents that this is what is at stake. In case your children comes to school with phone, this is the restriction. This phone should be kept in a corner till maybe a particular time. So that's my take on it for now. Because of this
Okay,
new
thank
this new transitioning that is coming up now, I don't know how it's going to affect schools. It's going to affect major schools because of major schools have not integrated to ICT,
right,
especially
right.
here in Nigeria. Major
Yeah,
schools haven't fully
okay.
integrated. So looking at WAEC and NACO in 2027.
Okay, thank you very much, Mrs. Peace, for that. I can see we have a one of our listeners, Ari. I think he's connected now. He wants to have a word. Ari, you can go ahead. You have the floor.
Good evening, everyone. I want to sincerely appreciate everyone for this program. It's coming at a time where we really need it. Um, I want to say 2027, I doubt if it's going to be possible because looking at the infrastructure on ground, the number one disadvantage of computer is power supply. We have our grid, our NEPA, BPHCN, EKC, there's problem with that. That aside, the CBT coming up, I think it shouldn't be 100%. If you see, when JAM started, there's written, they started with written, and you understand they were doing both at the point in time before they now made sure that they were having the full scale CBT jam. So I think they will have to run the two. That 2027 might not be feasible except a miracle occurs. I don't know if we can get our lights, if the lights, the power sector, the Minister of Power can do something nice and can help us. Then, if we can get tabs for the children from, let's say, next year, all schools must have tabs. You understand? I know of some schools that have tabs, and the students, their notes, their e-notes, and everything is being monitored by the ICT sector. That brings a way that the government has to come out to formulate policies that will help both public and private institutions. So the government has a key role to play because the children, they are still property of the government. Thank you.
Right. Thank you so much for that awesome contribution, Mr. Ari. Thank you. I really appreciate that. The government have to come up with a policy. Yes, because when I was searching this up, like I said, there is no written policy currently in Nigeria. It's just probably word of mouth. Government said this, and then there's no written policy to follow up to say, okay, according to section this, there's nothing really that has to talk about that is talking about the use, banning the use of phones in secondary schools. Now look at Australia, for example. In Australian schools, mobile phones are advised to be used only in the case of calls to parents or guardians, and that and only if the parent or guardian allows the phone to be used during school activities such as school excursions and all. Mobile phones with cameras are restricted. You can see this one even has a clause. They can bring mobile phones to school, but without cameras. So Nigeria should come up with policies like that. It could be maybe allowing students to bring phones that are not maybe just Android phones, or just name it. Let them come up with something. So now I want us to go back to what Godwin said earlier. It was saying something about having age limits for students to use phones. Godwin, so you were saying something about age limits, restrictions, and all that. Can you jump on that now?
All right. So let me start from things that could get out of hand. It becomes difficult to manage those things. I'll start this with, for example, you are in a house and you have a toddler, you have a preteen, okay, and you have a teenager. And you're going to see a movie, and the movie is rated. The movie is rated 13. Now, the first thing you do, because you are there, you will allow those children watch that movie. Then if there is a scene that they shouldn't see, you will now be telling them, can you close your eye? Close your eye. Close your eye. And you are trying to fast forward. The remote won't work. And those times remotes don't work. I don't know why. So you will see those children, they will still close their eye, they'll try to watch. Now they're already in the confines of access. Number one, when you discover that it is not age appropriate, you tell them to leave or you don't see that movie. So there should be a restriction, number one, to access. The people that we are talking about here, they are using this phone at home. Now their parents don't have access, so don't cannot control that access time. Maybe they did something and they gave them, oh, this is your gift. Oh, it's what's for what you have done. Take this. Okay, fine. So, but coming down to school, that's why I went back to that. I'm not sure if it's, I don't know if there is probably phones in Nigeria, but if they are going to use it, should be on it should be maybe terminal classes SS3. And for me, I felt that the computer should have answered all those questions. All right. So the computer, the PDAs, you could help them answer all the things that we are looking at. All those things would have been sorted out, not bringing your phone. And if you are bringing your phone, you have to sit on my network. Don't use your own data because you are going to move away from where I cannot control or guarantee you. So the access for me is key. There was this pupil that was already seeing pornography in my class. So I think we year five. So we started talking and I said, what happened? What happened? How did you see this? He now told me that he was seeing that thing from the sister's phone at home. Okay. Now in the house, the parents did not know, but they can't control that. They can't control it. He said, I will go to her room and we'll watch. He said, please don't tell her. I said, don't worry, I won't tell anybody. But we try to manage that situation. So access is important. And once they have access, forget it. It's going to be difficult. So for me, I don't know. Maybe age appropriate should be checked. There should be an age limit, and class should be checked. If they are bringing in phone, for what purpose they are bringing the phone, and who monitors what they are doing is important for us. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Godwin, for that awesome take. Thank you. Okay, I can see some comments on Nancy is saying, "Hola, hello, I'm from Mexico, I think. Thank you for joining." Yes. Okay, so I think we're about to round off now, but I still have one or two, things to say. Now, look, let's narrow it down to Nigeria. Actually, we can see in some of the schools we've mentioned here, some of these schools don't allow the use of cell phones. But what do we do about private, international schools or private schools where anything goes? These private schools for the let me say for the rich kids, they have to bring phone to school because just because they are rich kids. You get what I'm saying? If many of us have seen this movie, is it Far From Home, on this Nollywood movie? In the movie, you will see how it was portrayed. Like students were bringing phones to school like it's a normal thing. Teacher is in class, you see students, chatting on their phones, pressing in the presence of their teachers. I guess this is what is going on in some of these private schools in Nigeria, which actually is for rich kids, if I can use that word. What should be the thin line? What should we, how, as administrators or educators, how can we come in, or what, I don't know how to put it.
I think it's the policy of the school. The school has its rules and regulations, and the government. Will I say the government? Let's say the people that are in charge of monitoring the education in a certain state or a country should make sure that they check in on these schools. There should be proper monitoring of schools because, like you said earlier, it's super rich kids. Yes, you can't control them. Their parents are governors, ministers, lawmakers, giants in tech, people that have industries, that have companies. You have some of all these children, they are already a member of board. Some of them are owners of companies. So telling them not to bring their phone, they will tell you, how do I talk to my company workers? How do I tell my subordinates in the office? Or how would they, you know? So the truth of the matter is the government should bring out policies that will monitor
Yeah.
schools. At least once in a while, they go, if it is once a term, visit a school and check. There should be check and balance for all this. It's for our future because one bad apple, spoil the whole bunch. That's just the way I see it.
Yes, thank you, Ari. Mrs. Pitt was saying something earlier about Nigerian government trying to transition, fully into the use of CBT in our exams and all that. Now, I think we should just stick to the use of laptops. Even with
Wetin
laptops, we
happen?
still
You
need to
change
do check
student.
and balance.
Yeah, even the laptop, you need to still check the content. I recall a teacher saying something concerning a student while he was teaching the student. The student just put on the laptop, and what happened? They just saw what they call it, pornography on the screen, not knowing that it was the father's laptop. The father's laptop that the
That the
guy
student brought
brought
to
to
school.
school. To school,
Wow.
he didn't know it was not his own laptop. He just collected the father's laptop, and that kind of thing. So every laptop should be checked in by the ICT administrator. There should be screening. I know most of these schools that have boarding house, they do that. If you are coming in, you bring your laptop, they scan it, they remove
Right.
anything that a video, film, anything that is not of use, they will remove it. They will install the content what the school needs. So I think that is what ICT teachers should do. Schools should be enact policies. Then there should be more power given to the ICT teachers for to regulate ICT policies, or they should make them a part. What can they do? They should give them leverage, or they should just tell them, okay, look, oh, what do you think about this? Because many administrators, many of them, they never, some of them didn't even do computer while they were in university. Some of them didn't even do intro to computer. So many of them are not abreast. Many of them don't know what we know. We as ICT teachers, administrators, many of them don't know. So there should be a kind of
Check and
policy
balance.
that check
Yeah.
and balance for
All
everyone.
right, thank you, thank you. Now I can see a lot of countries have different policies, funny policies. There is one I saw about Greece. In Greece, it is completely allowed by the law to use mobile phones by students in school as long as their work is done first. As long as they've to send in the assignment and all that. As long as that is done, then they're allowed to to use mobile phones. This includes calls, they can call, text, or any kind of camera use. So you can see students in Greece, in secondary school in Greece, taking pictures. It's allowed. That means such a student must have sent in or done his own part of the deal, like doing assignments, copying notes, and all. Students must switch off their mobile phones or set to silent mode and keep them in their bags until their work is done, and then they can use them when they please. So at least we know that in Greece there is a law binding this thing. At least there's a law that, okay, as soon as they are done with their work. But in Nigeria, someone said something earlier that we just like to copy, other countries, but we don't really. Nigeria is such a large country, if you get what I mean. That's such a big, wide, you know, so elaborate. I don't know how to put it again. Nigeria is so vast that government cannot even keep up with every one of us. But at least there should be a written policy. It still boils down to the government. I feel in Lagos State, as an example, I know of students using mobile phones in Lagos State schools, which shouldn't be. I don't agree with it. In Lagos State schools, public schools, phones should not be allowed. But the reverse is the case right now. In Lagos State schools, phones are being used in secondary schools simply because their teachers now use tabs to teach, and even with the tabs they used to teach, I'm sure there'll be distractions too with with the teachers and administrators. Using phones is also a form of distraction. So yes, we've talked about the benefits, we've talked about the drawbacks as well. So the final note before we call it a day. Final note from Godwin. Godwin, any final take before we wrap things up?
All right. So for me, I agree that it is a no for us, as a country, and also as institution for learning. It is not right at this time to introduce smartphones to our classroom. It's a big distraction for the students.
It's a big distraction. Okay, Mrs. Peace, your final take.
It's very, I'm in support with Mr. What he said. Phone shouldn't be allowed to the classroom. Be totally restricted from youth. And also, um, I suggest, I strongly recommend that that school owners should employ tech-savvy teachers, and they should hold trainings, telling teachers, where teachers will be taught the disadvantages and the advantages of this phone on the kids, and the impact is going to make on on the kids or as the students. So if these teachers are being trained from time to time, I think they will know the reason why phones shouldn't be allowed to classrooms, except on some cases.
Okay, Mrs.
Thank
Pitts, when you say in the classroom, are you saying they can bring it to school but not in the classroom or what? For me, I would say phones shouldn't even be brought to school at all. If parents want to know the whereabouts of their children, the school should get a phone whereby parents can call in to ask, okay, where's my child at time, or maybe if they're on the bus, there should be a phone. There should be a phone with the probably a phone in the bus or something with a bus auntie or something. Our parents can call to find out where their children are per time. If you get what I mean.
Okay, okay, yes. Do you know why I mentioned that? Because of previously where I worked earlier, we lost a child in that school, and that child, she was keeping her medication. So as a result, the child wasn't taking the medication she was given. She was just putting it inside her bag. So in that case, the parents couldn't communicate the teacher and couldn't reach the child. So we lost that child. As a result, there was a lot of issue. We had issues with the security, and we had to employ measures. You understand? And
Wow.
that has to go with a child that is sick coming to school with at least a phone means of communication, so that if the parents
Hmm.
cannot reach the teacher. You understand? This is a rare case scenario now. So that if the
Wow.
parents cannot reach the teacher, the parents can always reach the child that is sick. So that is the only case. That's the only
I,
exception here now.
I would like to
You
say that
understand?
for that kind of
So
school,
that the
they
parents can
should
communicate with
have
the child. So
that
that
kind
is
of
just
school
the way. Thank you.
network. That kind of school should have probably the nurse's office or something. If a child, for example, the school where I work currently, if a
Hello.
child is not feeling too
I'm
well,
losing
the parents should be able to communicate with the nurses that, okay,
communication.
this my child needs to use this medication at a certain time. If a child is bringing medication to school, it should be handed over to the nurse immediately. That is how we do it in the school where I work. They hand it over to the nurse with the timing and everything. Then the nurses communicate with the parent to say, okay, at this other time, this child has used this medication. Even before they administer new drugs, they have to contact the parent. Should we use this? Is he allergic to this or that? So every school should have a nurse's office from, to be on a safer side. If a child wants to bring phone to school just because of the health, why can't they employ nurses? If you get what I'm saying. But I totally understand your point, actually. I totally get you. So thank you for that. Ari, your final take.
Okay, it has been a swell time with having you guys. Um, I've enjoyed every bit of the conversation. Like I said earlier, parents are they are kind of difficult in such situations. So I will advise, if at all they want their wards to bring phones to school, let it be button phone where they can call and receive. They can call and receive calls. Then, but the students will not use the phones in the school. It's only when they are coming to school, they'll drop the phone with their teachers or the principal or the security. Then when they are going, they take this phone. And I believe that if we make use of laptops, tabs, I believe if we have an ICT that is well coordinated, and if the government can assist the educational sector, both public and private, in terms of monitoring and in terms of assistance in training, I think it will go a long way to help our students in this age, because we are in a trying time, and it will go a long way to affect the future of our children, and it will also affect us because we are parents too. So God help us.
Thank you so much for that. Yeah, when you say you said button phones, what kind of phones are those? I don't think
Those ones, they are not browsable. You can't browse with them. You
Oh,
just
okay,
call.
like the button phones. Okay, now I get it. Okay,
Yeah, you
okay,
just make
like the
calls. You just
phones we
make
used to use
calls.
in the olden in the.
Yes,
Okay,
yes, yeah.
okay. Thank you for that awesome thing. So right about now, we'd like to bring the show to a close. It's been an awesome time with you guys. Peace, Nkire, Godwin Omo, and Ari. I would love to have you guys on the show one more time, if you wouldn't mind. Okay, let me read the final comment by Ari again. He said laptops, tabs should be used instead of phones. And each ICT gadget should be well scanned for any material not relevant to learning. Correct, but what do you do in a school where the population is so large? Ha, you can't keep up. Oh. You can't keep up with checking all this. But well, we have to just it's all about enlarging capacity. If you get what I mean. So yes, on this final note, we would like to bring the show to a close. Thank you. It's been awesome talking about the use of cell phones in Nigerian secondary schools. Grateful that you guys came on the show. And anyone taking up this message, this show later on to listen, do well to listen and share with others. Next week again will be up. We'll let you know the other details. So thank you and bye for now. Thank you for joining and bye for now.
Bye.
Bye.
Thank you.
You've been listening to Teachers Talk Radio. Tune in live and listen back at ttradio.org. We look forward to hearing from you next time on Teachers Talk Radio.
This show is brought to you in partnership with John Catt Educational, publishers of professional development books and resources that support great teaching and learning in schools around the world. Don't miss out. Level up your professional development today and visit johncattbookshop.com to explore the full range of titles. Use the code JCTTR2425 for 20% off your order. Happy reading.